Now listen, I'm going to throw the questions open for 1 second, but I do have a couple of questions which have come in from the world at large at Twitter. And the first, actually, I'll give to you, Anthony, which is from Lisa Wood. Giles, the character of Giles specifically, is so beloved by Buffy fans. Did you realise from the first series onwards that he specifically would be?
No. I mean, you don't think, oh, my character's going to be loved. No, in the same way, you know, you play the conflicts. It was wonderful that the guy was completely out of his depth, and at the same time knew his subject ferociously well. You know, when I did the research, I went to an American high school library. In itself, that was okay. It was interesting. But what was more interesting was sitting in the cafeteria afterwards at lunch break, feeling like, you know, this solitary English soul amongst all this life was going on. So, oh, that's Giles, basically. And I guess, I don't know why, I guess he's loved because he was a sweetie, he was a nice guy, but he also had an edge. You know, if he needed to step up to the plate, he would.
And a question for Damien from Emotional Latitude. Would you want to be a vampire? Which is a question I think we've all asked ourselves from time to time.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I think it'd be great. Well, I mean, could you say at a certain stage, okay, 250 years, that's my cutoff point? I mean, it's,
set your own terms.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just say, I'll do it for a little bit.
The bad guys is so much fun to write because they can say everything that the writer thinks, you know, uncensored. So that it's great fun to write. I think that, I mean, writing Mitchell and Hal, again, it was about the conflict. As long as as long as they were conflicted and traumatized by what they'd done and what they were capable of, and also their heroism came out of the fight to resist it and the fight to be something else. But with the villains, in a way, you want somebody who kind of, I mean, writing a bad guy, it's kind of, and again, you know, writing, you know, villainous characters on Doctor Who, it's it's like the character you played in School Reunion. It's, you know, they believe that actually what they're doing is the right thing to do. Yeah. That, you know, no villain kind of sets down things, I'm going to be evil. It all becomes about, I'm doing what I, you know, and all the villains in Being Human, they felt, you know, Herrick, for example, he thought that actually vampires were the next evolutionary step. And at one point, I remember in season 1, he says, we're not good or bad, we're just what happens next. And that's, you know, so it's finding the kind of, the reality of it. You know, Hitler didn't think he was doing evil. He thought he was doing the thing that was best for his nation. And so it's always finding it's finding that within your bad guy.
Well, I guess, I mean, to say that specific time, I mean, Joss, as I said, actually wrote Buffy. How long was the movie before the series? It was about 7 years, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
So he actually wrote it at the end of the 80s. But yeah, it was his vision that you know, the person that you expect to fall over and twist their ankle actually is going to save the world, which is, you know, just it's irony basically. And in terms of being iconic, he just hit it absolutely perfectly with the TV show. The timing was when women were feeling more empowered. They'd gone through the 70s and 80s, and the 90s was actually about genuine empowerment. And one of the greatest strokes, I thought, was in the last episode. He'd kept it very quiet. He just said, you know, the end is going to be pleasing, to actually empower all women and basically, you know, send the axe or whatever, you know, out into the world and say, you're all slayers, was just a very clever idea. I mean, I suppose somebody would probably now say, well, that's obvious, but at the time, I thought it was genius.
Casting anything is well. We had to find actors who could do all of the different, who had lots of hats. Basically, they could do the comedy, they could do the tragedy, they could do the kind of the humanity, I suppose. But then when the right person comes in, such as Damien, such as all of the regulars we had, it's the easiest decision in the world, because you just, and the thing is, with all of the regulars, they were the ones that, because the casting would be done, myself, the director, the producer, the other executive producer, the casting director, and when it came to the regulars and all of the kind of main parts, there was never an argument. It was like, well, it's him or it's her. I mean, it's obviously him, you know. And with Jason, particularly, I wanted to, that when we did the pilot of Being Human, we had Adrian Lester play that part, who was fantastic, but it was a very different take on it. It was a very kind of Anne Rice vampire. It was very kind of, it was the way he was kind of directed and the way I'd written that part, but it was very fruity. And what we wanted was what I wanted for Herrick was the banality of evil. And so we wanted somebody who just looked completely normal, who you would pass in the street without giving them a second glance, because there's something quite terrifying about the fact that he could be sitting in here and we wouldn't know that this person had killed over 1,000 people. And I think that that's much more terrifying than the notion of somebody kind of sitting there in a cape. So yeah, and Jason was but also Jason was extraordinary because everything could be done through just suggestion and just kind of it was so underplayed, which made it genuinely terrifying. But like I said, with all of the casting, as I'm sure as I'm sure Farren felt, and I'm sure Dominic felt, that when casting their shows, when the right person comes in, it's the easiest decision in the world.